Alright, this is something that I think is really cool and fun, and I just think everybody should know about this because it's so cool. Um, for those who don't know, Advoko Makes is a really awesome YouTube channel. This like Russian dude who does this wild crafting, and for those who don't know what wildcrafting is, it's like you go out into the woods and you build stuff from raw materials and whatnot. It's pretty versatile. This guy kind of expands the definition quite a bit by creating sort of this hybrid stuff, which I kind of refer to internally as low tech, high tech, which is like using minimal modern technology or materials to create devices or tools that interface with high-tech materials or concepts and allow you to access high-tech while using relatively low-tech, or to exploit low-tech resources using minimal high-tech artifacts. So anyway, Advoko, he has this one particular thing that he created. I don't know if it's original, like if he thought it up himself or if he was kind of inspired by something. But anyway, regardless, it's a real remarkable contraption, and this is my sort of version of his bottle cutter, which is what it is. And what the bottle cutter does is really quite fascinating, and you should really go to his channel, and I'll link the videos in the description so you can go there directly. But essentially it allows you to take any, or more or less any, generic plastic bottle, and by using this simple tool you just put the bottle over the end and you draw a little tongue of the bottle through this slot here, which is kind of hard to see, and then you can just pull the material through the slot, and it basically cuts the bottle into a long strip where you can get an absolutely incredible amount of this material, which amounts to like poly cord, or tie, essentially, from a single bottle. Like this is from one bottle that I converted, and it's like, I don't know, like 50 yards or so of poly, and you can cut all sorts of different types of bottles. This was a square bottle, which was rather thick, and I think it wasn't PET, which, like, this is from a PET bottle, and then this one was it was another type of material. I can't remember the name of the plastic, but like milk carton stuff. It's or milk bottle plastic. Anyway, I'm getting kind of bogged down, but so anyway, I built his device sort of using a blueprint that he posted, and also making some of my own custom modifications. His uses like a C-shape frame, and mine I just used a regular L-shaped piece of aluminum stock. I also changed the back of his design a little. Like, he has several different slots in a row for different widths. I created this adjustable moving partition here that allows me to control the width of the plastic by just loosening these nuts and moving this little part to wherever I want it to go. I also put another wing nut on here so that I could basically change out the razors blades really easily, and also if the blade starts to get dull at the point of contact, I can just loosen this and slide it down a bit and then retighten it to get a fresh little bit of blade. Also just used a piece of all thread here. His design wasn't like super clear on what to use for the bottle support part, but anyway, sorry, I'm getting like so bogged down here. But what I wanted to get to was my observations about the design, and also some of the most critical things that I learned. And first of all, the most important thing by far I like to say is when I built this, after watching his video, I thought like, oh, this is just going to be one of those turnkey things where you follow the blueprint, you create the tool, and then from there on, it's like just the easiest thing in the world, and it's so simple that any idiot could do it. But what I learned actually was something a little more interesting. Basically, that the device is kind of like, in a way, like customized to a person, I feel. Like, which is kind of a weird thing to say, but I definitely noticed while I was testing out my variation and just sort of tweaking it that even when you have everything just right, it still requires a bit of finesse and like I don't know, nuance, I guess is kind of a weird way to put it. But so like what I'm getting at is if you just build one of these, it might not work the way you think it's going to the first few times you try it out. In fact, you may need to kind of like get used to it, because there's actually a lot of variables here that I did not anticipate, and for such a deceptively simple mechanism. So I wrote them down on my little whiteboard here, and I'm just going to go over them quickly so that anyone else who builds one of these might save themselves a little time and effort and suffering. So the bottle actually slides down this rod and kind of sits at an angle, and if you'll notice, this isn't this rod doesn't come out at a straight angle, it comes out at like a slight curve in that direction. Utterly critical, something that the blueprints did not really make super clear. And then also, it doesn't necessarily come out at a perpendicularly from the vertical plane either. I made this one adjustable, so by loosening this nut I can angle it up or I can angle it down, and surprisingly one angle doesn't really fit all, and I found myself changing this angle frequently as I was putting new bottles on here. But the deal breaker here is this angle, where basically the bottle has to come in like this, and the reason for that is like you cut off the bottom of the bottle hopefully as cleanly and symmetrically as possible, and then when it rests down here, if this rod is straight, like if it was at a perpendicular angle, the edge of the bottle wouldn't be able to fit into this little slot. So that's why there's this bend here where it actually allows you to feed the edge into this slot, which is the business part of the tool. So the edge of the bottle end goes into that little slot, and this was something really interesting that I had to learn through trial and error. But when I built this little control mechanism here, or gate, to modulate the thickness of the strand that I'm pulling through here, I didn't realize that the angle of the edge here is really important, because basically it has to be the same angle, the inverse angle of this bend here, so that the bottle doesn't actually get kind of hung up on the edge here. That's really critical. So that's also something to consider if you make a design like this. If you do his multiple slot method, you probably won't ever have that problem. But I wanted it to be a little more like elegant, and in fact I think I actually just made it less elegant, but whatever, this is my interpretation. Okay, so the bottle type, really important. Like I said, you can use many different bottles types, like different types of plastic, different thicknesses, different bottle shapes, different textures on the bottle surface that are made during the molding process. But believe it or not, every one of those differences in bottle type and material and so forth makes a difference on how easy or hard it is to get it through the device and to actually maintain a consistent pull and to get your end product out. So I found obviously the easiest type of bottle is like a 2-liter soda bottle, which is the PET plastic, poly. Really just the thinnest, the easiest to move, the least surface disruptions, the right thickness to make it nice and easy to pull through. So that was something I learned. This bottle is actually really thick. It's like almost 2/3 of a millimeter thick plastic, which is like really ridiculously thick. But I was able to pull that through. So with a little tweaking and stuff, that became not such a big problem. But it's something that there was a learning curve, right? Okay. So the blade, the thickness of the blade, utterly critical, and I didn't realize that from the blueprints or anything else. Like, he was just using a regular carpet knife blade, and as it turns out, that's actually more or less the best blade that you can use. I initially tried using a double-sided shaving razor blade because I thought, oh, really tiny, thin blade is gonna cut better soft plastic. It just seemed intuitive, but actually, due to the way that the structure and everything works, it actually was bending the blade and crimping it at the point of contact. So that actually caused me a lot of trouble, and it took me a while to figure that out. So another instance of me outsmarting myself. So thicker blade, better. I haven't tried anything thicker than this, which is like about 3/4 of a millimeter, but I would imagine an even thicker blade than this would probably not only be fine, but might even give you better results. And you don't have to worry about the edge of the razor actually crimping over and screwing up your pull-throughs. Yeah, support, tilt, also key, which I covered earlier, which was just like causing me no amount of trouble. Like, you don't realize how frustrating it is to actually be unable to feed the bottle into the slot until you get this angle just right, which I don't know what this is, like it's a really slight angle, like maybe 3 degrees, 4 degrees, maybe 2 degrees, I don't know. It's hard to gauge, but that's something that just takes trial and error to get down. So yeah, that's just about everything that I learned when I built my own one of these. Like I was saying, nuance and a learning curve. So like when you build one of these, don't give up. Because see, the thing is that a lot of people who are really incredibly intelligent, like this Advoko person, like don't realize is that for them it's easy to build something like this and to think that everyone will be able to produce the same thing more or less, and to put the same amount of energy and intelligence into that to get out the sort of like ideal end product that they ultimately are able to produce. But it's not that simple. Not everyone has the same like skill set or range of intelligence, and so there's a lot of learning involved. And I certainly felt like I learned a tremendous amount from making one of these for myself. And now that I have it done, I'm like incredibly happy with it. Like, thank you, Advoko. This is like such a cool innovation that you came up with. Thank you so much for like sharing. This stuff is just the coolest for so many different uses, like basically almost direct recycling of plastic bottles, that you can use this very utilitarian product instantly. And then it has the added benefit of, at least of its PET shrink wrapping, so you can like heat this with a heat gun or a soldering iron, and it will actually contract and become even stronger. So you can, you know, lash something fairly loosely, heat it with the heat gun, and then it will tighten up really tight and give you this incredibly firm joint, which is just awesome. I mean, if you're any kind of a creator or maker or work in any kind of construction or wildcrafting, you'll recognize immediately the utility. But yeah, so like everybody out there, I think, should know about this because it is so cool and so useful. And Advoko Makes is also awesome and a great YouTuber. I highly recommend subscribing to his channel. Not that he needs any help. And just full disclaimer, I in no way was remunerated for this. This is a unsolicited shout out, and just because I think it's so cool. And also it was really interesting discovering how little I knew about the basic mechanics of poly and razor blades and surfaces at various angles when I had a lot of trouble getting this to work right for a while. So yeah, anyway, thanks for watching, and have a good one.